Israel Adesanya.
28-0!
McGregor announcing
about a guy who
What's up, the homies? Leighton here for UFC Gambling Addicts, back again for another UFC full card breakdown and predictions video. This one's going to be UFC 257. It's the big one, Conor McGregor taking on Dustin Poirier. I'm already baked before I even get into the breakdowns, so this one's going to be fun. As always, make sure you hit that like button, use your techniques, whether it's Conor McGregor left hand or Dustin Poirier dog-like performance on the like button. Whatever you want to do to it, go ahead and do that. I'm going to jump straight into these matchups. Alright, let's go. Amir Albazi taking on Zhalgas Zhumagulov. And we're going to start with Amir. So Amir comes into this matchup 1-0 inside the UFC. I think Amir showed us what he's about in his UFC debut. Made real quick work of Malcolm Gordon. Was able to find some good success with his jiu-jitsu. Amir has had one pro loss in his career so far, and that was to Jose Torres. Even in that loss, he was able to take the back of the opponent for nearly the whole round, basically the whole round, I believe round 2. It's clear that Amir takes pride in his grappling. The opponent, Zhalgas, comes into this matchup 0-1 inside the UFC. Debuted against Julian Paiva, was pretty much outclassed on the feet in that matchup, couldn't find a big knockout punch, wasn't really able to grapple with Paiva too. This one's already a super difficult matchup to predict, fellas, it really is. Super even match to start the card. You'd imagine that Amir might want to grapple with Zhalgas, but there's no real evidence that Zhalgas can't grapple with Amir, so already it's difficult to predict who is the better grappler. I would side with Zhalgas in having punching power over Amir, but I think Amir could fight on the back foot, look to level change and make it hard for Zhalgas to really stand and trade with Amir. So already, man, this matchup really 50-50, really difficult to predict. I'm going to side with Amir Albazi purely because I like his jiu-jitsu, but man, it's so 50-50. But the pick is going to be Amir Albazi, and maybe by submission, maybe. So I'll take Amir by a submission in round number 2. My odds, Amir minus 120, Zhalgas plus 110. Can't really decide between these two guys. And the actual numbers, you know, better than my numbers. Both of these guys are minus 110. I don't disagree. I completely agree. I like Amir, but at the same time, Zhalgas definitely has the ability to win this matchup. I'm sure in the comment section, you know, if you have a real strong read on this match, please leave a comment. I'm sure most of us are going to be torn though. You know, really 50-50 in my opinion. Now, this is a matchup I'm way more confident in than the one we just broke down. We've got Nick Lentz taking on Movsar Evloev, and we're going to start with Nick. So Nick comes into this matchup with a veteran's record, originally supposed to fight Mike Grundy, which was a difficult matchup for Nick, now getting a way more difficult matchup in my opinion. For those of you who don't know about Nick Lentz, this dude has been around for some time, pretty good wrestling, the definition of a scrappy fighter. The opponent, Movsar Evloev, comes into this matchup 3-0 inside the UFC, primarily a wrestler with some ever-evolving kickboxing skills. This guy, in my opinion, a real prospect in the UFC. It's hard to imagine anything other than Evloev having his way with Nick Lentz. Whether Evloev chooses to kickbox or to initiate the wrestling, I believe Evloev is above Nick Lentz when it comes to skill. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Evloev via decision. Nick is pretty tough, so maybe he can go 15 minutes, but I wouldn't be surprised. If Evloev can TKO Nick Lentz, or even submit him, or even win rounds, you know, 10-8, I wouldn't be surprised. I really, really rate Evloev. I think this guy could be a future champion if he continues to improve. My numbers may be a little bit harsh, but I'd put Evloev minus 300, Nick Lentz plus 250. And the actual numbers, of course, the bookies are going to be more harsh than me. We've got Movsfar minus 600, minus 500. Nick Lentz coming back plus 420. Hey, amen to that. Plus 420. Are the numbers a little bit harsh? Maybe a little bit, because Nick Lentz has been around for some time. This guy is a real fighter. But when it comes to skill and when it comes to hunger, Evloev, man, this guy is really a special fighter. And it's hard to see him not dominating Nick Lentz. So, yeah, that's going to be the prediction here. I'm going to take the Russian fighter. Alright homies, moving into the next one, we've got Andrew Sanchez taking on Muradov, and we're going to start with Andrew. So Andrew comes into this matchup 5 wins, 3 losses inside the UFC. Training out of TriStar in Canada, a real top camp for those of you that don't know. Andrew is primarily a wrestler, although you wouldn't guess that if you saw his last matchup. If his last matchup is the only fight you've seen from Andrew Sanchez, you would never guess this guy is a wrestler. Completely slept Wellington Turman. Despite that nasty TKO, Andrew is a wrestler. He should definitely look to wrestle in this matchup. But having said that, you know, if this guy can go in there and do something similar, starching the opponent and not wrestling, who am I to say that he should go in there and wrestle, you know? The opponent, Muradov, comes into this matchup 2-0 inside the UFC. I was talking about Evloev as a prospect. I think Muradov is also a prospect in the UFC. Fought a lot of decent competition on his way to the UFC. The striking isn't 10 out of 10, but I would put it up there, you know, like an 8 out of 10. The grappling also, it isn't 10 out of 10, but I'd put it up there, 7, 8 out of 10. This guy's just a problem, in my opinion. Ultimately, I think Muradov wins this matchup if he doesn't end up on his back. His striking is levels above Sanchez. Definitely has the chance to stop Andrew too, if he can keep it striking. So I'm going to take Muradov via TKO in round number 2. My numbers would be Muradov minus 180. Sanchez plus 150. And the actual numbers, we've got Muradov coming in minus 140, minus 135. Sanchez returning plus 115, plus 120. So I'm more confident in Muradov than most people. You know, there's quite a few people laying money on Andrew Sanchez. So no doubt there is a few of you guys right now who are taking Andrew thinking, I just disagree. It's fair, it is fair. You know, Andrew Sanchez has a good camp behind him. He's been in the UFC for some time now, so if he can go in there with a good game plan, look to stop Muradov with some wrestling, that's a good win. But I think Muradov, man, I like this guy. The striking, quite impressive. The wrestling, also decent. Maybe he can compete with Andrew Sanchez if Sanchez looks to initiate that wrestling. I'd love to know who you guys are taking in this one. You know, if you're taking Muradov, let me know in the comment section and let me know why. If you're taking Sanchez, same thing. Let me know why you're taking him. Khalil Rountree taking on Marcin Prachnio. And we're going to start with Khalil after we've relit the blunt. All my double amen homies right now are thinking, he's one of us for this show, boys. We're staying lit. Okay, Khalil Rountree comes into this matchup 4 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. How do we even describe Khalil at this point? Against Eric Anders, he looked like one of the best Muay Thai kickers we've ever seen. Then against Q Talaba, he just looked a shell. You know, he looked a shell. It all depends what kind of Khalil Rountree turns up to fight. He's coming up against a fighter that hasn't found any success in the UFC yet. The opponent, Marcin Prachnio, comes into this matchup 0 wins, 3 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a karate fighter. Simply looking to pick up his first win in the UFC. No big deal, no pressure. Marcin has to be more calm and composed in this one. Multiple mistakes could leave him exposed to basically being knocked out. I'm going to take Khalil Rountree to hand Marcin another loss. But let me say this, guys. Do not be surprised if Marcin gets his first win in this matchup. If there's anyone you want to come up against to grab a win, it might be Khalil. It kind of depends which Khalil Rountree turns up. Marcin could easily use a lot of movement in this matchup with a bunch of kicks too to score on the judges' scorecards. My pick is going to be Khalil to find a TKO at some point, but I wouldn't count on it, guys. I mean, this one, it's kind of like Vanessa Melo coming up against Sarah Morris. You see the path to victory for Sarah Morris, and she just doesn't do it. And Vanessa Melo is able to find some success. Can Marcin Prachnio do the same type of thing? In my opinion, it comes down to which Khalil turns up. My numbers would be Khalil minus 200, Marcin plus 170. And the actual numbers, we've got Khalil over minus 300, Marcin plus 270. Now if Khalil gets in there and just gets real aggressive in Marcin's face, yeah, over minus 3. But if Khalil gets in there and watches the karate movement of Marcin, and Marcin actively looks to use those karate techniques but also use a lot of movement, then it could be way closer. I'm not taking Marcin, but I'm saying at that price, it's crazy if the wrong Khalil turns up, basically. The pick would have to be Khalil. I'm just hoping the aggressive one turns up. Sarah McMann taking on Juliana Pena, and we're going to start with Sarah. So Sarah comes into this matchup 6 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC. An Olympic level wrestler. That's what Sarah McMann is. She's been working on her jiu-jitsu with a few grappling matchups too. I believe Sarah is like 40 years old now, so probably time to hang up the gloves. Or it's even been some time, you know. Despite that, she's still fighting. She still wants to go. The opponent, Juliana Pena, comes into this matchup 5 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. Also primarily a grappler, more jiu-jitsu orientated than wrestling. Juliana is a good wrestler herself, just not an Olympic level wrestler like Sarah McMann. If this ends up being a kickboxing contest, it's going to be quite interesting to watch, because neither fighter is anywhere near being a great kickboxer. These ladies love to grapple. That's what I'm expecting in this matchup. Sarah McMann could be winning this fight right up until Pena finds a submission. It seems like it's wrestling versus jiu-jitsu. Sarah has been submitted a few times in her career, but I'm gonna side with her. I think Sarah McMann could ride this contest out with a lot of top control. Hopefully she can avoid the submissions. If she can't, fair play to Juliana Pena. But I'm gonna take Sarah McMann via decision. My numbers would be Sarah minus 150, minus 140, Pena plus 120. And the actual numbers, we've got Sarah McMann minus 120. Okay. Juliana Pena returning plus 100, plus 110. Yeah, those numbers seem pretty sorted. I mean, Sarah McMann, she is the better wrestler in my opinion, but Juliana Pena's got the jiu-jitsu to be able to go to the mat, be losing, and then find that submission. I think either side that you pick, it's going to be sweaty at times, because if you pick Pena, you see her on the bottom, she's not getting the submissions, you're thinking, what did I do? Or if you pick Sarah McMann and she's got all that top control and then she gets submitted, you're thinking, what did I do? Either way, it's a tough one to be confident on, and that's what we want. You know, we want to watch these matchups where anything can happen, and this is one of them. Brad Tavares taking on Antonio Carlos Jr. This is a difficult one, man. This is a difficult prediction to make. We're going to start with Brad. So Brad comes into this matchup 12 wins, 6 losses inside the UFC. It's been some time since we've seen Brad Tavares. The last time we saw this guy, he got violently slept by Edmund Shabazian. He's got a completely different matchup this time. Brad hasn't got to be too careful of the striking. He does have to be careful of the jiu-jitsu though. Not engaging in that type of fight would be key for Brad Tavares to pick up a win. The opponent, Antonio Carlos Jr., comes into this one 7 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a jiu-jitsu player. Super high level BJJ from this guy. If Carlos Jr. can take you to the mat, you really have to be prepared to compete in his world. If you aren't prepared, it's going to show. Usually it shows by Carlos Jr. being able to get that submission. In my mind, and I'm sure, you know, a lot of you guys are thinking the same thing, it's really one or the other. Either side you pick requires a level of faith. If you take Brad Tavares, you're basically saying, I believe he can stay on the feet, or I believe he can get back to his feet. If you're taking Carlos Jr., you're basically saying, I believe he can take down Brad Tavares and find a submission, or even continue to keep taking down Brad Tavares to get a decision win. Personally, my money will not be going on this matchup. If I had to choose, I'd say Brad Tavares comes in well prepared for the jiu-jitsu fighter, maybe keeps it on the feet, or maybe is able to get back to his feet. But this one, man, I think it requires quite a bit of faith on either side, and I'm not prepared to put my money down on that faith. So yeah, I'm going to be watching this one. I'm going to enjoy this matchup, but I wouldn't enjoy it if I had money on it. So yeah, the pick is going to be Brad Tavares via decision. It's just tricky to be that confident. My numbers, Brad -140, Carlos +110. And the actual numbers is basically that. We've got Brad Tavares -140, Carlos Jr. +100, +110. Yeah, really difficult. Really difficult. If you're taking Brad Tavares, drop the comment, tell me why. If you're taking Carlos Jr., drop the comment, tell me why. And if you're like me, where you think it's too difficult, drop that comment too. I want to know who's fading this one and keeping their money in their pocket. Final matchup on the prelims, and what a matchup this is too. We've got Arman Sarukian taking on Nasrat Hakparast. What a matchup. We're going to start with Arman. So Arman comes into this matchup 2 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. This dude, fellas, super excited to see how far this guy can go in the UFC. His kickboxing, really high level, had those trials at Tiger Muay Thai, just like Mike Davis. His wrestling, also very high level. Arman is a guy we are all watching. Nasrat comes into this matchup 4 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. This dude also very high level, training out of TriStar in Canada. His boxing is getting better and better. The pressure he's able to use on his opponents. Most noticeable was the matchup against Mark Diakisi. He was slept by Drew Dober, but a guy who can cause anyone problems on his day. This is a fire matchup. Either guy could win this one, but I do believe that Arman has the slightly better stand-up and the slightly better grappling too. Doesn't mean to say Nasrat can't compete, can't win. I just think Arman is a little bit better. So purely for those reasons, I'm going to take Arman via decision. My numbers would be Arman -160, Nasrat +130. And the actual numbers, Arman coming in -300. Wow. So a lot of hype, a lot of money going on this guy. It's clear to see why. You know, he really is a prospect in the UFC. But Nasrat was being spoken about as a prospect too. Especially after he TKO'd the Brazilian dude, Joaquim Silva, I believe. You know, Nasrat, he's got something to prove in this matchup. This really could be a close one. I do disagree with the current odds. I wouldn't put Arman 3-1. Yeah, it seems wrong. It does seem wrong. I am going to side with Arman. He's slightly better in my opinion, but Nasrat is a competitor, man. That guy, he could show up. He really could show up here. Alright, my homies, you know what time it is. If you waited to smoke with me, amen. If you've been smoking this whole time, double amen. If you're not a smoker but you enjoy the smoke breaks, triple amen, gang. Let's go. Not really sure why I'm saying if you waited to smoke with me, if I've been blazing this whole time, but yeah, that's what we do. That's how we start the smoke breaks. As always, if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, if you've enjoyed these breakdowns and you're not subscribed, please go ahead and do that. Same with the like button, you know. Use your techniques on the like button, head kick, submission, whatever you want to do. Shout out to Michael, don't you talk about my mum, Chiesa. Dude stuck to Magni like glue. He loves that super glue type performance, guys, and he done it. He got it done. Neil Magny, kinda questionable to initiate some grappling here and there, but must have been because he was tired, you know. Whether Neil Magny initiated grappling or not, it was very clear after 10 minutes that Michael Chiesa was going to grab that guy anyway, you know. For those of you that took Michael Chiesa, great pick. Dominant, you know, so dominant. Stuck to Neil Magny like glue, round after round, so credit to Michael Chiesa, man. Motivation and philosophy, my homies. What can we speak about this week? If anyone has some topics of motivation or philosophy that they would like me to speak about, drop those below. For this week, let's speak about comfort zone, right? The thing about your comfort zone, guys, it's comfortable. Feels good being in your comfort zone, right? But you've got to understand, fellas, that growth is never achieved in the comfort zone. It's when you're uncomfortable, that's when you're growing, right? I've got a couple friends that personally told me that they would love to go to the gym, but don't have the confidence to do so. They've said to me, what if someone stares at you? What if people speak about you? What if you're doing something wrong? To hear this stuff from my friends, from people that I know, it breaks my heart, man. I'll be honest, it breaks my heart. Because we're kings, fellas, right? See, these people that said that to me, they would love to go to the gym, right? They would love to do that. But it would be uncomfortable for them to go to the gym. They won't do it. It's uncomfortable. But how are you going to grow as a person if you don't embrace being out of your comfort zone? Become comfortable being uncomfortable. And if you're one of these people listening to this thinking, man, I kind of feel that way too. I kind of don't want to go and do something that I would love to do because I think other people will speak about me or look at me in some type of way. If you're one of these people listening to this, thinking along those lines, this is the advice I've got for you, my bro. How about you start caring about what you think of yourself and only you? How about that? How does that sound to you? How does it sound that you go and do whatever you would love to do, not giving a F what anyone thinks of you? You may be saying right now, yeah, but that's easier said than done. That is easier for me to say than to do. And my advice is still this. How about you put yourself in an uncomfortable zone with a new mindset of, I don't care what anyone thinks of me, and go and do what you would love to do with your life. How about that, my bro? That is still my advice to you. Every week, the motivation and philosophy is going to be different. One week it may be for you. Next week it may not be for you. But understand, guys, that every week the smoke break does connect with at least one person. And if that one person is listening to this knowing they would love to go and do something, but just don't because of the opinions of other people, I hope you got some motivation from this. I hope you go and do that one thing that you would love to do, that you haven't gone and done, and you realise that you had nothing to doubt. You didn't have to doubt yourself. Never ever doubt yourself. Become comfortable being uncomfortable. You know, embrace that. If you want to go and do something that you haven't done, the confidence is down. Okay, let's put ourselves in an uncomfortable position to raise the confidence. And when that confidence raises, you're thinking, why did I not go and do this? Right? Like I say, fellas, it's not going to be for you every week, the smoke break. But that one person listening who does have that mindset, I hope I've changed your mindset a little bit. I hope I've ticked into that mindset and unlocked something within you that makes you realise, do you know what? I'm going to go and do that next time I can do that. I'm going to go and do what I wanted to do. Not giving a F what anyone thinks. You know, if that one person listening has the mindset changed, then amen to the smoke break, right? We are the Amen gang. It may not be every week for you, but just know there is one person listening who does think along those lines, right? And when my friends told me this about wanting to go to the gym, but this is why, breaks my heart, man. Breaks my heart, because the gymnasium is a place that everyone should be, in my opinion. And even if it's not the gym, if you're thinking in your head, it's not the gym, I'm okay going to the gym, but it's doing this, right? It could be going to an MMA gym, for example, right? You've got to understand, fellas, that you're playing this game of life for you, not for other people. So if someone has the mindset, he's doing that wrong, or he's doing this, or look at this guy, you should already have the mindset, I don't care, right? You don't care. So if you're listening, bro, if that one person who does think like that is listening, change it up, my bro. Change it up. But Instagram is on screen, so if you want to be homies outside of YouTube, we can do that at UFC Lay. If you haven't got Instagram, the comment section below is always a great place to chop it up. Alright, my homies, let's get into the main card. Marina Rodriguez taking on Amanda Ribas, and we're going to start with Marina. So Marina comes into this one 2 wins, 1 loss, 2 draws, primarily a Muay Thai striker. In both of her draws, she basically won 2 rounds, but in the round she lost it way too much, which gave her an 8 on a scorecard, as opposed to getting a standard 9. Marina, in my opinion, she's a brilliant Muay Thai striker. Her Muay Thai striking is way up there. It's just becoming a better fighter. Becoming more well-rounded is the job for Marina at the moment. Maybe she shows us improved takedown defense this time. We'll see. Amanda Ribas comes into this matchup 4 wins, 0 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a high-level BJJ player. Amanda seems pretty unstoppable at the moment, but that's only because her opponents haven't been able to keep the fight standing. Amanda loves her jiu-jitsu. Stopping Amanda from using it would be key to beating her. Paige Van Zandt, Mackenzie Dern, Emily Whitmire, and Randa Marcos. Those are the names of the fighters that haven't been able to keep it standing against Amanda Ribas. This matchup is just like Brad Tavares taking on Carlos Jr. It's one or the other. Does Rodriguez keep it standing, or does Amanda Ribas have success in fighting her fight? Amanda isn't a wrestler, but she has had time to practice that wrestling. Either side requires a level of faith again. For me, I'm going to put the faith into the jiu-jitsu player this time. She's a bright talent. I think she is able to take down and submit Marina. So I'll take Amanda via submission in round number 3. My numbers, Amanda minus 170, Rodriguez plus 140. And the actual numbers are pretty crazy. Amanda Ribas minus 300, Rodriguez returning over plus 200. I mean, if Amanda Ribas can't take her down, she isn't minus 300. You know, Marina is a better Muay Thai striker, and that's why I say it's one or the other. For me, I'm gonna side with Amanda being able to take her down. It's just if she can't, you know, if she can't, she's not minus 3. She's just not. Ottman Azatar taking on Matt Frevola. This is a good one, man. Let's start with Ottman. So Ottman comes into this matchup 2-0 inside the UFC. I see exactly why this dude is called the Bulldozer. He's bulldozing everyone. Ottman is on a mission, and I love the mission he's on. Waste no time, just purely look to finish the opponent. Nasty boxing, nasty intentions. Matt Frevola comes into this matchup 2 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss inside the UFC. Primarily a wrestler who isn't afraid to show us some bombs on the feet too. Isn't afraid to engage in a dogfight. He was clipped and slept by Polo Reyes. Since then, he's used more of his wrestling. Even had success with his wrestling against a big dude like Jalen Turner, which was quite impressive. Does Matt Frevola have the skill and ability to wrestle with Ottman? I would say yes. But I do think that Ottman is on a mission. Like I said, the mission is to get in there and get out. Bulldoze the opponent. I think that could happen again here. So I'm going to take Ottman via TKO in round number 1. My numbers, Ottman minus 190, Matt Frevola plus 160. If I'm Matt Frevola, my whole game plan is to get out of round 1 and then build from there. Then look to wrestle over and over. Maybe even look to wrestle in round 1 too. The actual numbers, Ottman minus 160, minus 150, Matt Frevola plus 125. So I'm pricing Ottman deeper than he should be. I like the mission though. I do like the mission. This guy's getting in there, getting nasty, getting out. But I do mention Matt Frevola has some good wrestling. So if he can have success with the wrestling, maybe he can stop Ottman, but I like the mission. I'm going with the mission in this one. Jessica I taking on Joanne Calderwood. I'll be honest guys, out of all the matchups on this great card, I wouldn't mind missing this one. Of course I'm going to watch it, of course, but this one doesn't do it for me that much. So Jessica I comes into this matchup 5 wins, 7 losses inside the UFC. Jessica never gave up in the UFC. Even when she was on a big losing streak, she kept going. Eventually got the title shot. That didn't go well too, but she's a journeywoman who's proven anything is possible if you work hard and just keep going. So amen to that. Her wrestling is underrated in my opinion. Her boxing, not so much. JoJo Calderwood comes into this matchup 6 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC. Quite a well-rounded fighter. Her jiu-jitsu quite solid, despite being submitted in her last one too. Kickboxing also quite solid. What can we say for JoJo? She's got all the experience you could want. Never had that title shot. Will she ever get that title shot? It's difficult to say. For JoJo to get that title shot though, she would have to get past Jessica I first. Avoiding that wrestling game plan that Jessica is most likely going to bring would be key. If Jessica could just wear on JoJo, she could win. I think if JoJo keeps the fight in the middle of the octagon, that would be wise. No way am I putting any money on this matchup because I don't really trust either fighter at this point. But I have to make a prediction, and I'm going to say maybe JoJo is a little bit more hungry than Jessica. Probably not by much though. So yeah, I'm going to take JoJo Calderwood via decision. My numbers would be very close because I don't think there's much in this one. I'd put JoJo minus 120, Jessica I plus 100, plus 110. and the numbers reflect everything I've said. I love that. Both of these fighters are minus 110, and that's exactly how it should be. Jessica Eye can absolutely win this fight. JoJo Calderwood can absolutely win this fight. There's no point of laying money, guys. Let's not even lay money on this one. I don't know how bad JoJo wants the title. Does she really want that shot? I don't know, right? Jessica Eye has had that shot. I don't know if she's more hungry than JoJo. This is a pick'em of all pick'ems. The money stays away. Please, please keep the money away. If you're not going to keep the money away, be sure to drop the comment and tell me who you're taking and why you're taking them. Co-main event, we've got Dan, the Hangman Hooker, taking on Michael Chandler. This one, man, I'm just going to say it straight at the start. This is a difficult prediction to make. So let's start with Dan. Dan used to be a 145er. He stepped up to 155. He looked way, way better. He's been in there with some of the best fighters in the world. Edson Barboza, Burns, Felder, Dustin Poirier. You know, Dan Hooker is one of the best 155ers in the world. His striking extremely nasty, specifically the knees. His jiu-jitsu isn't too bad either. We haven't really seen that side of his game, but, you know, he's training with guys like Adesanya. You know, this guy does have a ground game. We just haven't seen much of it. Took a lot of damage against Paul Felder and Dustin Poirier. I'm not too sure how much of that damage Michael Chandler could have taken. Dustin Poirier and Paul Felder, tough as nails, you know. There's a good chance that Dan Hooker is able to spoil the party and able to finish Michael Chandler. The opponent, Michael Chandler, making his debut. This guy, also pretty nasty, you know, primarily a wrestler, but he's learnt the striking side of the game. And that's what makes him nasty. That's what makes him dangerous. He's like a Matt Hughes and Chad Mendes put into one. You know, constant level changes. He's happy to stand and box. He's just non-stop. And that's what makes Michael Chandler a good addition to the highest level of the game. I think, again, man, you keep your money away. You keep your money away from this matchup. You're really playing with fire if you do put a bet on. And of course, as gamblers, we love to play with fire sometimes, a lot of the times. So chances are a lot of you guys have laid money already on this matchup. Can Dan Hooker get it done with his striking? Absolutely. Could Michael Chandler have a good debut in pushing the pace, level changes, does pretty well on the feet, but continues to push Dan Hooker at a pace and is able to outgrind him? Absolutely. And that's why it's my belief that it's a dangerous one to bet on. I'm going to side with Michael Chandler. I know there's a lot of people listening taking Dan Hooker. I'm not saying he can't win, but I've just got a feeling, man. I think Michael Chandler, if he gets in there, level changes constantly, just does what he does, right? I think he could beat Dan Hooker. But my money, yep, staying away. But then again, man, it depends what the odds are. It depends. I haven't seen them. Right, so my odds, personally, I'd put both of these guys minus 110. And the actual odds, we've got Michael Chandler as an underdog. Wow, plus 100, plus 110. Dan Hooker, getting some respect, man. Getting some respect. Yeah, the line is perfect, man. Dan Hooker is one of the best 155ers in the world. Michael Chandler is not getting a walk in the park. You know, if this guy can get in there and beat Dan Hooker, that is such a win. Maybe I lay a little bit on the plus money. Maybe. But man, this co-main, boys, fire. Alright, main event, homies. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that. If you haven't hit the like button, if you've enjoyed, make sure you do that too. Alright, we've got Conor, the notorious McGregor. Wow. Taking on Dustin, the Diamond Poirier. Or we can make up our own names, right? We could have Conor, I'll invade his favela on horseback, McGregor. Or we can have Conor, 2 men died making this watch. McGregor taking on Dustin. I'm a much better fighter now. Poirier. All jokes aside, yeah? All jokes aside, Conor McGregor taking on Dustin Poirier. And I do want to mention Dustin Poirier is a much better fighter now, but so is Conor McGregor. So let's start with Dustin. Dustin is primarily a boxer. His boxing has got much better over the years too. His wrestling also, you know. This guy trains with Jorge Masvidal week in, week out. Has done for years. Kinda cut from the same cloth as Jorge Masvidal, you know. Dustin Poirier is a dog. He's not going to stop in there. He's not going to quit in there either. He's going to keep going. We find a lot of evidence of that against Justin Gaethje and against Dan Hooker. Dustin Poirier did not quit in these matchups, you know. When the tough arrives, Dustin does not get going, you know. This man is not going to quit. So if Conor McGregor goes in there and starches this guy, you have to applaud it. You really do. I think for Dustin to win this matchup, he would have to do something that no one's done yet, and that's sleep Conor McGregor. If he doesn't do that, the real victory is somehow being there after 10 minutes and basically bringing Conor McGregor into a dogfight the way Nate Diaz was able to. If he can bring him into that dogfight, who knows? He could take him down, could find a submission later on in that matchup. The opponent, Conor McGregor, comes into this matchup, as we all know, primarily a boxer inside the octagon. That left hand, it really is a pistol. You know, it hits you, the head shakes, the brain shakes, you go down. That's what happens most of the time. Unless your name is Nate Diaz and there's just no light inside your skull to turn off, right? You can't starch Nate Diaz. It's impossible. You can starch a Dustin Poirier though. I would honestly expect Conor to come out and just be aggressive straight away, get in the face of Dustin Poirier and look to land that left hand. If he lands the left hand, I think Dustin Poirier is going to go down. And I think it could even be inside 60 seconds again. It really wouldn't be surprising. Surprising to me would be Dustin Poirier still being there after 10 minutes. I think in round 1 or round 2, there's a real good chance that Conor McGregor stops this fight. He's one of the most dangerous 10-minute fighters in the UFC. You know, who's more dangerous round 1? Who's more dangerous round 2? I think if you want to answer the question for round 1, maybe like Francis Ngannou, but Conor McGregor round 1, round 2, pretty unstoppable. To stop him, you have to have no light in your skull like Nate Diaz, or you have to be Khabib and take him down. I think Dustin Poirier has got a light in his brain. He can be switched off, and I don't think he's of the level of Khabib. So in my mind, for Dustin to win, he has to somehow be there after 10 minutes, and I don't see it. So my prediction is going to be Conor McGregor via TKO, either round 1 or round 2. If I had to pick, I'd say round 1. My numbers would be Conor McGregor minus 300, Dustin Poirier plus 250. The actual numbers, yeah, Conor McGregor minus 300, Dustin Poirier plus 250, plus 260. Completely agree with it. I completely agree with that line. I think Dustin, you know, he is a dog. This guy is a dog and he's not going to give up. And that's what makes it so impressive. If Conor McGregor can sleep him, we know Dustin is not a quitter. And Conor McGregor has to turn the light out to get that win. Personally, I think it can happen. And I think it's going to happen. So, yeah. I've enjoyed breaking these matchups down. My Instagram will be at the end of this video if you want to catch me on there. As always, leave down your comments. Who are you taking in the main event? Who are you taking as an underdog? And as always, catch you next time. Peace.